ignition sequence starts.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Mid-Heaven Podcast. It's your boy, the Peace Dealer, and I'm here with my wonderful co-hosts.
Yeah, I'm his work wife. My name's Candace Marie.
She's in my 7th house, too.
Gotcha, bitch.
And to the Gemini sun, it's the 6th house, so work partner. Boom.
Yeah, perfect. You're my 9th house, so.
Word.
So you're just like super airy-fairy out there for me. I lack mutable, so I always look forward to our conversations because I'm so like cardinal and fixed that I'm just very black and white, and you're like, there's some gray areas in there. Yeah.
I like to think of myself as somewhat cardinal too, but my mutable like changes everything. It's the only mutable I have in my chart, actually.
Well, I mean, I'm kind of living for like the mutable node stuff that's going on right now. It's definitely like very helpful in helping me see different perspectives, you know, spiritually, and also like just in terms of like what's going on in the world and politics and religion and beliefs. And it's opening up a lot of stuff. So I'm thankful for that mutable stuff coming into my life. I knew this would be an interesting year for me hanging out with Geminis and people who have like Saggy qualities and other things.
I appreciate the North Node on my sun because it's helping me see all sorts of perspectives about how sorts of all different people have no fucking idea what they're saying. But at least now I understand how they don't understand, and it really clears up a lot of misconceptions. Not for them, but for me.
Well, but on your sun, it's also illuminating this aspect of it. It's your 2nd house, right? So it's like
manifest destiny. Yeah,
it's that. I mean, it's like fuck you, pay me, but it's also kind of great because it's really aligning and like really locking into that second house of like what you value and really valuing your beliefs and sticking.
And my time more too. And not giving away too much of my. That's what Saturn taught me. It's like your words are gold, so. You like to say too much as a Gemini. You should say less and know that what you say is more powerful than you think. But, I mean...
Oh, it's your Time Lord this year then. So you've got a lot of action coming up here soon, huh?
Yep. I'm about to be progressed Moon in Aries, and my progressed Mars is 29-degree Aries still, but yeah. Ha! I have that Neptune square. That Neptune square to Gemini and Sag Sun is just insane. So, like, everything that I say is twisted to like oblivion. Like I can say I like dogs and someone's like, you're a cat hater, and it's like, are we doing this right now? Like,
the Neptune squares have just been insane in general this year too. So like just from an outside perspective, somebody who doesn't have any of those squares, just to see it play out in the world and media and like seeing people have conversations and like going through these conversations and speaking two completely different languages, but really kind of like saying the same thing is just like, I don't know. I just sit back, my little cardinal fixed ass, and I just like watch the world burn sometimes. There's really nothing I can do other than just, you know, people are going to think what they're going to think. This is an interesting topic to kind of open up this episode because I guess in lighter news of all the mutable craziness that's going on, we have a very big planetary shift that's coming actually this month. And so Mike and I wanted to talk a little bit about Jupiter going into Pisces. When I say this month, I mean May.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's when this is going to come out. So it's going to be coming out in May.
For sure.
You want to talk a little bit about your perspective of Jupiter, and then we'll get into how that's going to play out, perhaps maybe with Jupiter in Pisces. And then we're definitely going to get into how it's going to affect all of the 12 signs. That's our little gift and our little goodie for you guys. So stay tuned for that.
Jupiter has single-handedly like guided me through this astrological adventure and journey. So when I woke, when I enlightened and like stepped into this is when Jupiter was in my first. And like kind of going through the Gemini, that's when I realized, like, once Jupiter was 29 degrees Gemini, that was when I was like, I'm the peace dealer. And like that's when I realized, oh shit, astrology is on point. Like that's when I realized like how like the final degree can finish the complete thought. So Jupiter has really single-handedly, like, Jupiter and Saturn for real, but Jupiter especially is like paced out this like timing for me. So it also helped me believe in magic, because the whole concept of talking to planets really evolved for me with Jupiter, where I vividly remember like asking Jupiter for some money. And not only did I asked Jupiter for $300 and less than, I was like, I will sing you 3 songs, Jupiter, please hook me up. And in less than 3 hours, I forgot I asked. And it's not the first time I put out an intention to get money and got money, but like, not only did I get $250 less than 3 hours later, and the woman is like, hey, I can pay you an extra $50. Do you want to? And I was just like shook. I was like, no, you're good. She's also Sagittarius. So Jupiter was a ruler in Sandhurst. So like, I see you, Jupiter. And like everything I would ask Jupiter, Jupiter would come through, sometimes in ways that I wouldn't even notice. So I've seen it as great evolution as far as like an artist helping me freestyle. The more Jupiter has progressed, the more I've seen my artistry evolve. And the last time Jupiter was in Pisces, it was conjunct Uranus. So I feel like this return is going to change everything. It's just like a completion of that Jupiter cycle in ways.
I'm thinking about that. You know, it's interesting. Like,
and Neptune's in Pisces. It wasn't there last time too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so a little bit about, I guess, like thinking about 12 years ago. 12 years ago was a very long time ago. And it was like a very magical time in my life, because that's when I really started getting deep into my practice of not just astrology, but also tarot. Because I see Jupiter and Mercury as planets that deal with prophecy, right? And being able to look into the future. Maybe Mercury is more like actual divination, and Jupiter might be more kind of like philosophy and ideas and like what things could be. And certainly Jupiter, you know, it expands everything that it touches. So, you know, of course it's going to rule culture and travel and expansion and good luck and good fortune. But I also see Jupiter as this very kind of lighter version of Saturn in a weird way, because Jupiter is kind of like, he can joke about stuff. He can come through and teach lessons through comedy and through just kind of like, I think of like the Fool card, like tripping and falling into something and like getting lucky. That, yeah, I mean, 12 years ago it was like super magical. So it's kind of cool that you brought that up, because now I'm actually quite excited to see what Jupiter does.
Oh, it's gonna be like ridiculous. I mean, it's gonna only be there 2 degrees, right? But it's definitely gonna be like insanely like magical, but in a way that just completes everything we've learned. And I feel like so many of that's what made me respect Jupiter, is like now cyclically we were a part of that Jupiter cycle, whatever that message was. So it's going to come back around and just kind of be like, okay, this is how much you've grown, because Uranus has gone through a whole zodiac sign since Jupiter was there. So I think for both of us, it'll be kind of like, or for anyone who's been serious about really your work, even outside of spirituality, you're just going to see so much difference between yourself 12 years ago, and more so how you have a final understanding of the reason for everything happening, which is going to be awesome.
It really makes sense, especially, you know, like people have been asking me about how I see, you know, Jupiter going into the sign. First of all, Jupiter does very, very, very well in Pisces. So, you know, Jupiter obviously is the ruler of Sag, and it's exalted in Cancer. Right. But it loves being in Pisces, because similar to Neptune, where it can just really kind of fan out and not necessarily kind of doze off like Neptune does, or dip into meditation or wine or travel. Jupiter is more, well, let's go further, right? Let's go farther. How can we go farther in our exploration? And being in the sign of Pisces, I think we're going to see huge innovations in spirituality, in medicine, major shifts in travel, major shifts in consciousness, and how we are integrating healing, sound, vibration, therapy, spirituality into our day-to-day lives and our consciousness. And so that, for me, is what I'm really looking forward to. And it's cool that you spoke about like this cycle that, you know, Uranus has kind of changed signs since the last time Jupiter is about knowing and believing, right? It's the I believe. And so when it aligns with Neptune, I see that almost as like wish fulfillment, that there's going to be a lot of wish fulfillment next year.
Yeah, there is. Especially for me, that's my 11th house. So when Jupiter was in Gemini, that was when I got enlightened to the fact that I moved to El Paso 2009, the end of 2009, after I went to college, where Jupiter was in Aquarius for me, coming out like my 9th, 8th house. So it was in Pisces of my 11th house, and I had transferred to the engineering school in UTEP. And so I was taking a circuits class, and I got introduced to a Pisces man who introduced himself to me and connected me to the circle of friends that I still know today. And it happened during Jupiter in 11. So like he was the Jupiter influence that activated my 11th house, and like that just blew my mind. Like, wow, it was really on point.
It's kind of cool because Jupiter definitely also deals with like people who might be different culturally than yourself.
Wait,
right?
Okay, so that's the best thing about what you said, because first of all, the school that I went to was on the border of El Paso and Juarez, Mexico. So like it was only Mexican people there. Mm-hmm. So he was the only other Nigerian there that recognized me because I was Nigerian. And then that's how we kind of like were. I don't even think he knew I was Nigerian off the bat, but like that's kind of like what connected us and whatnot. So
that's cool.
Right.
Yeah.
Like that, the whole different cultures thing is still on point. It's just interesting how it worked like that.
I think about mine. And so, you know, I've told you before, like I'm a diehard like Placidus user. So like technically Pisces is my 6th house, and you know Jupiter is going to be in my 5th house all year, so it's going to kind of hover on that 6th house cusp. But thinking about what is going on recently, like I made the decision that I'm going to take 3 months and I'm going to be a pescatarian, which is really hard for me because I love my meats and cheeses like a lot. Like I've already kind of cut out carbs, so now I'm gonna like give it a solid 3 months and be pescatarian. So it's my 6th house, it's my diet. And I'm also like now I can swim all the time, so I'm gonna be swimming a lot more because there's a pool where I'm living. And I'm looking for like a Kundalini like yoga course right now, so I can have more of like a conscious like meditation and like yoga practice. And those are all like very Jupiter and Pisces things. But 12 years ago, or I guess closer to, 12 years ago, I was like working at a fine dining seafood restaurant, and I was like super hardcore into like tarot and astrology. And I was like kind of in the process of getting ready to start building my business and like trying to quit my day job. And I was taking a lot of like classes and I was being mentored. So I'm actually really excited to see what happens. But yeah, so this year, Jupiter, we kind of double dip, right? Because Jupiter is in Aquarius right now, and it's going to move mid-May into Pisces, and it'll spend about 3 months in Pisces before it retrogrades back into Aquarius, and we'll have it in Aquarius until the end of 2021, and then it will fully move into Pisces, and then next year it will come into conjunction with Neptune. So for those of you guys who are like, what does this all mean? Basically, we're going to get a little sneak preview, a little snapshot of what Jupiter and Pisces has to offer us fully in 2022 this year.
And I mean, that sneak preview is not only a sneak preview. I'm just really astounded at how quickly Jupiter moved through Aquarius. Like, whoosh,
yeah.
Like either it didn't want to be there that long or it's just flying there. But yeah, that conjunction to Neptune is going to be probably, I think that's going to be one of the best aspects that may not come off the best, but is just experienced like so supernaturally, magically. Like it's definitely going to be a game changer.
I'm so ready to get into what I think is going to happen. So we'll talk about like the pros and the cons, because Jupiter can make things too big, right? So it can magnify too much. And in Pisces, it can, you know, touch on all the Piscean topics like the ocean, like organized religion, like cults, like viruses, because it's Neptune, like people who are having mental health issues or addiction issues. So certainly I always tell my clients, I'm like, listen, there's a fine line between being psychic and crazy. I ride that line on the daily. But I feel like I feel like it's going to drum up some issues where you're going to either see like mass hysteria with Jupiter Neptune, like fear. I think you're going to see a lot of cult leaders that are going to start showing up. I think you're going to start seeing the very beginnings of people really, really clinging on to organized religion, which it's just like, you've heard me talk about this, so I don't.
And spirituality too.
Yeah.
And treating spirituality like it's organized religion, or like.
I mean, to some extent, it can be when you think about it, especially when you see some of these like weird kind of like compound, like culty, environmental people living. I don't know. I mean,
you're going somewhere with that.
I mean, there's something to that, right? It's like very like literally drinking the Kool-Aid, Jupiter Neptune.
And I love that you said that, because that's so true. If anything, I think it's going to be all of that plus more, because the last time they were conjunct was in Aquarius. So that was like 2008, 2008. That was when Obama got elected. That's insane. So I mean, like it definitely.
That was the beginning of my real like hardcore like astrology.
Word.
Like practice. Yeah.
And it's definitely going to push people forward to a whole new way. It's a game changer. Like the way people were perceived with augmented reality and virtual reality, and really connecting with the astral realm, because Neptune is the astral realm of the imagination. So if we think about Neptune now, that is influencing whether it's a false narrative or a positive narrative, just like the way news is being perceived out there in the world in that fog, Jupiter could really expand whatever fear or whatever, like you said, cultish behavior is there. Although I have a really funny story about this that I kind of personally made up or felt about it, how like Neptune was in Sagittarius and then Jupiter was in Pisces, and then Jupiter was talking shit when it left Pisces, like, see, like I'm better in your sign than you are in my sign, and Neptune, you know, was just keeping silent. And then now Neptune's back in Pisces and Jupiter was in Sag, and they beefed a little, and now Jupiter's coming to Pisces, like Neptune's like, what's up, motherfucker, now I'm back in my sign, you coming through my hood, like you want to see what's really good. And that's why Jupiter's like, oh, that's how you feel? I'm running through Aquarius to get to you. It's not that.
Jupiter in Aquarius has been a shit show. Because Aquarius is super unconventional, different.
2021 started off super weird.
With like a bang.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And part of it was, I mean, thank God Saturn was there, because I feel like that may have tamed it a little bit.
I never thought of it like that, because I wanted to blame Saturn on it. But yeah, Saturn actually did ground it like a lot
did.
more.
I mean, the farther that Jupiter gets away from Saturn, the more that we've started to see the world open up from the pandemic as well. And we've seen people are starting to socialize more, and like obviously it's going to differ depending on the city that you live in, but travel is opening up more. We're starting to see this stuff shift. So certainly the next couple of months, I feel like Jupiter going into Pisces, you're going to see like people are going to start traveling internationally more. People might get back on cruise ships. We might see people start going back to the films and theaters and watching plays and things like that. But I also think of Neptune, and I think of like television, and how much television has been changing, and how we're starting to see massive shifts moving away from, you know, like just like cable TV. It's like now you see there's all these streaming services and all these networks, and there's all of these new bringing now movies to, you know, to like not on demand, but stuff that you can stream. So I think we're going to see like huge innovations in that form of media. I'm excited to also see like how Jupiter coming up on Neptune is going to bring more awareness about discoveries and learning more about the ocean. And, you know, like the reality of the situation is Saturn in Aquarius is very much about our environment and environmental issues, not just social issues. So when we have that going on, and then Jupiter's in Pisces, I feel like we're going to start to realize that unless we start making more of a conscious effort to preserve our oceans and all of where life came from, like we're fucked. Like, you know, like you're seeing all these, like there's this, I haven't seen it because I can't bring myself to watch it, but there's this new documentary that's out that's about like, you know, the truth of what's going on with like fishing and like what's happening with stuff being overfished and like what they're doing to dolphins and like all these horrible things. So I feel like we're going to see more of this, and realizing that, you know, we're trashing the ocean, we're polluting the ocean, we're not actually taking care of one of the major sources of life that we need to for Earth to continue on in a healthy manner. And then I think like, okay, the North Node's moving into Taurus, that's about land, and Uranus is in Taurus. So like, are we going to start building, you know, all of these farms like out in the ocean? And are we going to start farming food from the ocean? And are we going to see that as a valuable resource, Taurus? Are we going to start building these huge floating, I mean, they're already talking about it, these huge floating colonies where you would essentially live on the sea?
It's inevitable. That's definitely inevitable, especially with the population. And I love how you brought up how it being in Pisces will make it water, because at the end of Jupiter in Sagittarius, a wildfire burned like 1 billion animals in Australia. Then it went through Capricorn, and we had like famines in its fall, and like shortages and the disease. And then it's through Aquarius, and Bill Gates is talking about climate change. So, you know, it's kind of interesting. And then also, of course, technology and everything. So, yeah, I'm only more excited to see how aquatic it'll get. But also, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw technology that, because I don't know how big this is now, but they are saying that scientists, and I don't know the reference to this. I saw this on the Infographics YouTube channel, but they were talking about how scientists have apparently proved the existence of the afterlife. So we might
love
see
that shit.
Right?
I love that.
Might see technology augment. Like, I always wanted to create a phone system where like you can call, I don't know if this is sacrilegious, but it's like a telephone service where you can pay for minutes and like call up your dead ones.
It's called booking a session with a medium.
Right.
Call me now for your free reading.
I'll just, right? I make it a call center. You can make a profile for her.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
That'd be dope.
I mean, and you know, Neptune rules like ghosts, right?
I believe so, yeah. It rules the astral realm and everything that's astral, where I think ghosts live in the spiritual realm. So
I don't think people really, I mean, we don't know, right? We don't know. But I do know that from my perspective and the interactions that I've had with that world, like, we're all coexisting. We're just on different planes. Mm-hmm. So it's like, you know, when you think about like habitual hauntings and like reoccurring paranormal activity, or when you think about poltergeist activity, or, you know, like, I can't think of the name of it, but it's like when there's like a really traumatic death or whatever, like they'll go through that like cycle of recycling and going through that trauma, and that's why you'll have habitual hauntings. So maybe I'm hoping we're going to learn more about what's going on in that world, and maybe we'll learn more about understanding, not necessarily the paranormal field, but understanding more about those dimensions, and that there isn't much that separates us, because I feel like Jupiter and Neptune is really kind of saying like, well, we're all actually here. It's just a matter of like tuning in. I think you're going to see a huge uptick in like psychedelics too.
Oh,
like
that's
churches
true.
That are becoming churches so they can utilize
ayahuasca
and maybe like mushrooms
being decriminalized. I think mushrooms is next up. Like, as
a couple states have already decriminalized it. Yeah, it's already happening. I think in Colorado and a couple different places. And I mean, man, it's the Wild West. Everybody's doing mushrooms. People are putting that shit in their coffee. They're putting it in their chocolate.
Oh yeah, I remember that. That's dope. And the funniest thing is, it was a Libra who did it too. He was like, yeah, you don't even, a lot of people think you need to eat a lot of mushrooms. You can
just microdose.
Right.
You can get in a chocolate bar. My favorite thing to do is to eat some mushrooms and go on a hike. I'm just like blissed the fuck out for a couple hours. But I'm like super earthy, so I think that's part of it. But people don't realize some of the benefits of that as well, is that, you know, microdosing is a total heart opener when you're working with mushrooms. So it can be really great for people who are dealing with depression or who are grieving, people who are having issues coming off of antidepressants, who want to have that restabilitation going on with all like the neurotransmitters in their brains. And I don't know, I think a lot of people are going to do it under the guise of this church. And we've seen this for a while with like peyote and other things,
Yep.
but it's become such like a more mainstream thing. Like I was on Facebook the other day and I got some ad about like some ayahuasca center, and there was like all these white people, and I was kind of like, part of me was like, okay, like I see how I can't. I guess it's hard for me to like even comment on it, because I'm grateful that those are available. I don't know how I feel about the mainstream shamanism. I know that the times that I've partook in ayahuasca and other medicine ceremonies, it's always been with somebody who I've like really trusted and like gotten to know, and it was not like this mainstream thing, and it was like a very small circle, and like all of the money from that, the proceeds went directly to somewhere in South America that was like helping build towards like clean water and schools and things. Okay. So I look at some of these like bougie kind of like white people that are doing this, and I don't know how I feel about it. I have mixed feelings. As long as it's something that's being done in a very sacred way to generate income and bring it back to those communities who willingly brought and loaned us and taught us some of those things, which white people can't take credit for because that's not our culture. I'm okay with it, but I'm not okay with it being
mass engineered.
Yeah, and that's where I think the Jupiter Neptune stuff can really kind of get messy, because then it starts evolving into something that can be kind of delusional, or things that are maybe being misrepresented.
But thankfully, we won't have the square to the nodes, and we won't have any opposition to Virgo. So that might.
But I mean, we're in preparation. Saturn is in Aquarius, so it's 12 signs away from Pisces. What's happening is like a bunch of people are going to cling on to their beliefs, whether it's their spiritual beliefs, their religious beliefs, their scientific beliefs, whatever it is, because Saturn is behind Pisces. So it's like what we're coming into is actually about to be the fall of organized religion. And I'll probably get crucified for this, but fuck it. I don't care.
And that confirms how that really is the Saturn and Aqua karma. Because I've always felt that Saturn, Aqua, square Pluto, Scorpio is the most intense. And like they're the ones who are going to be like, they're going to get the most pressure from the older generation. Because it's like, you guys are too weird. And they're going to be like, fuck you guys. You guys have been believing in this, and this. And Aquarius is more science and like advancedness. So they're going to like debunk all the organized bullshit that like has been not really addressed and just move forward. And like you're spot on. I think it is going to be like,
it's the beginning of the end. But then we start to see some of the shit that's going on with the organized religion, and you know, things that are going on with the Catholic Church and things that are going on. I mean, it's not just the Catholic Church. It's I have clients that are deep into Judaism and finding that they're having a crisis of their faith, and people who are into, you know, Hinduism and people, all kinds of stuff. And I've said this time and time before, and I'll say it again. I love, and I have loved going to church my entire life. Not because I'm a practicing Catholic, but I've realized what I am in love with is the theatric side, the ritual side of what church is.
The orthodox nature of it, right?
And like wine and crackers, like body and blood of Christ. Like if that's not some pagan shit, I don't know what is. Right. So whenever people bring this up, I always tell them, like, do your history. I mean, and you get it because you have a background in like religion and theology as well, but do your research. I mean, look at where those stories came from. It doesn't just stem from paganism, but it goes further back to, you know, Egyptian times and ritual and paying homage to certain energies and planets and stars and natural energies. And so these archetypes, they come through the Bible, but really it was almost like in some way it was totally manipulated and misrepresented and bastardized in some weird way to get pagans who were not so willing to enter into organized religion or the Catholic Church, and they just adopted their holidays. I mean, Easter, Ishtar. I mean, you look at Christmas. I mean, that's Yule. That's the pagan holiday. That's Saturn. I mean, that's the darkest night. We're connecting with that energy, and then the equinoxes and. I don't know. It's just that's something that gets me really worked up. Like I think about it and I'm just like, how can you believe in the fucking Easter Bunny? How can you believe in Jesus Christ And I'm sure he was an ascended master. I'm sure of that because I'm convinced he went to India and did a bunch of stuff post the crucifixion. But
well, apparently the story of Jesus was more influenced by there is the whole notion of Ptolemy who mixed Osiris and
it's all Egypt.
Osiris. So, and then of course Jesus is Jesus, which is Yeshua, and so it's pretty much just like an Egyptian plagiarism. But then there's also Josephus, who they say the story of Jesus was really based off of what he said. So
but across the board in a multitude of religions, you see the same story: the sacrificial son, the mother, the father. You know, he ends up being this prophet, this healer. I mean, and it in a way, it's like the more that I've learned about religion and spirituality, I start to look at it and go, like, it's all the same shit.
And so, as like a message of Christ that unilaterally shares different epithets across religions, and that central message being a spiritual, lifestyle, I get that. And this is how I can see, the organized religious dogma will kind of die around that. It's just, once again, like, all the lies and all the deception around it, I think that's also what might blow up too.
Well, and also it's just, it's been 2,000 years. I mean, It's been the age of Pisces. So it's been about, focusing on exactly and making people feel bad and committing to
all based on belief,
religion based off of belief, but also out of feeling like you're guilty, or you need to feel guilty, or you need to sacrifice, or there's some shame, especially behind sexuality and spirituality and like women. And I'm just gonna go on in right now. I'm going to go on one, and I don't just say this because people are like, oh, it's the Age of Aquarius. The Age of Aquarius is about ushering in a new energy where we're moving away from this and moving towards equality, merging science and spirit. We're not looking at gender. We're not looking at gender roles. We're not looking at where you fall in social status or class. We are moving together as one.
It's not the age where doctors would say you need to drink beer because you're possessed. Now it's all scientific.
Oh, I'm super possessed, so
empirically. Right. But that's the coolest thing, like bridging science and spirituality. I feel like our generation will be able, of psychologists and also spiritualists, will be able to like link psychological maladies to like real demons, or like that.
And you hear shamans talk about that, about, I've read some quote a dozen times where somebody was talking about going into a mental institution and a shaman's perspective of being in a mental institution and seeing it, and really what he's seeing is spiritual imbalances or attachments or things that are going on a spiritual level. Like, I've sat in ceremony a dozen times and I've seen some crazy shit. I've seen some crazy things, some things physically pulled out of people.
Wow.
I've participated in exorcisms and clearings and all kinds of stuff. I've seen things that I could never explain. So I'm excited just to see new information in this huge wave of consciousness show up. I don't think that it's going to happen all at once. This is kind of like the first chapter, and then the second chapter would be, Saturn going into Pisces, and then the third chapter is like Pluto going into Aquarius, and then eventually it will probably be the beginning of the end at that point.
To me, that is definitively the beginning of the end, for sure. And how fitting Saturn, like, oh my gosh, when I saw the transit for that for the first time, I had the most chills, because you see
Neptune
like
going into Aries.
And that too.
Yeah.
Well, I'm talking about Saturn entering Pisces, because that
it's all
one's
happening
crazy.
at the same time.
Exactly.
Neptune's going to go into Aries around the same time. Pluto goes into Aquarius. Saturn goes into Pisces.
Well, no, Saturn actually walks into Aries with Neptune. So,
okay.
But still, like, that whole area is still kind of crazy as far as like with like Jupiter. Pluto literally enters Aquarius after the Pisces cycle.
Yeah.
And then the Saturn goes in the new moon in Aries, and then Pluto. So it's literally like a chapter's ending. There's no social energy, just like everyone's quarantined.
Well, yeah, it's going into 0 degrees of a cardinal sign. It's going into Aries. I mean, that's just like
Neptune,
hard,
right?
Yeah, that's a hard reset.
I feel like that to me is like the end of the veil too.
Yeah.
And it's like we might be able to start seeing what's behind the veil, and like, also the deception, and like that whole fog of the illusion of peace is gonna just cut, and people will realize, oh shit, it's been going down the whole time. But Saturn will be there too. It's not all gonna be a bad thing, but like It'd be definitely.
I think it's going to be really good for like the study of like sleep and, you know, what we do when we're sleeping and meditation. It was like, you know, something I recently just invested in. I can't even think of what the name of it is. I'll have to find it. But there's like this bed that they're coming out with, and you could like reserve one. You could buy one. So I put down a deposit to buy one, and it's like this fold out bed, and it's on like foam feet, and it's vibration. So it has all these different vibration settings, and it links up and synchronizes with being able to listen to music specific to that's binaural beats. So not only are you hearing the binaural beats, but you're laying on the bed and the whole thing vibrates.
That's awesome.
To work with getting the body in check. And so I've been really like kind of fixated on that stuff because I've had a lot of great experiences with like sound bath meditations, and like they also have this like this healing dome egg thing that you can go into, that's a client was telling me about, that you sit in and you listen to the music, and it's got all of these vibrations, and it's actually meant to go and like heal the auric field, and like whether it's emotionally, physically, you know, spiritually, whatever, it clears energy. And the times that I've felt the best is when I've just come out of a sound bath, or when I've just come out of like a really heavy hour-long session of binaural beats. So I think there's going to be more of that stuff coming.
Oh, definitely. Especially Pisces is definitely like a vibe and music and vibrations.
Lots of new alcohols too, and elixirs, and there will be.
They have like marijuana elixirs out, but that might be the new thing.
I've seen some of those.
Drugs or like new substances. That
new
come out
drugs.
too. Oh, and you know what? We might even see NZT and like psychotropics and smart drugs be like
psychotropics.
Mainstream.
Like, how is psychotropics different than neurotropics?
I didn't even know there was a difference. I've never heard of neurotropics, but to me, I'm assuming psychotropics is like a smart drug, like a.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, I could see that with Jupiter conjunct. I think it's probably going to be liquids.
For sure, exactly.
For sure, it's going to be liquids, or you know, Neptune can also be like fog.
I think it's going to be a liquid, and definitely fog too. Yes, smoke too.
Smoke, yeah.
Fog. DMT might be legalized, and also.
Have you done DMT?
Yes.
You've smoked it?
I've smoked it off of a bowl, and then recently I know someone who actually has pens.
Oh, I have the pens. I got the hookup.
Yeah, oh word.
I got some cartridges.
That shit kicks my. DMT is the only substance where I'm like,
okay,
this is too much. Like, I'm not trying to have like a whole life experience. For me,
it's very interesting because I've done ayahuasca several times, and so to like go through that whole like ritual setting of like setting the intention and cheersing and like setting intention before you know, connect with like mother and all that stuff, and it's very beautiful and it's amazing. But part of me was like, fuck, I just don't have it in me to like puke in a bucket for 3 hours. Like, I just can't. Like,
or take a dump.
That never happened to me. Touch wood. That never happened to me.
I never threw up, but I always like went to the bathroom.
Oh my god, I always throw up. I just put your bucket, tie your hair up, and just puke until you find Jesus. But yeah, the pens are interesting because you can take a good solid couple rips off of that, and then I just lay back. And I never noticed that I do this, but my neck goes back even when I do ayahuasca, and I just sit, and I didn't realize that's like the Kundalini like channel. That's the energetic channel. Yeah. So if you notice that your head goes back and you do this, it's like source. I feel like there's like a beam that goes through me. So last summer, I had somebody who connected with me and got me some of that stuff, and I was like, yeah, let's try it. And like, it's fucking amazing. It's really great. And the last couple times I've done it, it's been very visual. Not as visual as ayahuasca, but it's been very visual, and it's definitely come in. Like, I have like this weird thing. Yeah, the buzz. Yeah, the buzz. But also it's like right before you drop into the void and you kind of like break through, and then I would see like all this like sacred geometry and like all of this stuff. And I've had a lot of deities that come through. Like last summer I was spending a lot of time in Northern California, and I was like going to the river and like giving flowers and honey and like laying out naked in the sun and like doing all this like love work. And then I did a bunch of DMT, and it was like Nefertiti like showed up. She was like, what's up, girl? And she like gave me a bunch of gifts and a bunch of things, and I don't know, that stuff's real. And then of course you'll have like all the answers in an experience and be like, that trip was so amazing, I don't remember a thing of it, damn it. And it's like, ooh, something like I got it though. But like, yeah, there was a level 2 and a level 3, and that level 3 would just make me feel like I blew my mind and like, oh my gosh, I'm dying but I'm not dead. And it's just like, Wow.
If I had a Pluto sun, like I don't have visuals like everyone else, so I just kind of have like.
But you have
body
8th house
highs.
energy.
I'm just learning to tap into it because I'm not really the most aware. Like I don't really notice much of these stuff, but that would be just amazing. I'm gonna have to hit up your plug too to see what's up with that.
I'll connect you with that. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Well, I was gonna say to add on to Jupiter or Saturn is gonna be 12th house to Jupiter, right?
Yeah.
So Saturn in Aquarius to me is representative of like an update of research institutions. So even though these are updated maybe yearly, if we look at like a census or an almanac, like I feel like relative to the last time it was there, maybe like 10 to 30 years of research information.
Oh, for sure.
That we base all our knowledge off of, that now, this year, next year, people are going to look at the research information based off of 2010 and now, and what they're going to find is going to be like, oh my gosh, this is a crazy update. Like things are not the same as we used to think.
You're going to see a lot of private research facilities, a lot of private healing centers, a lot of private funded things that are going to be hidden that they're doing behind the scenes as they're building this research.
That might contradict what is also like,
yeah.
Ooh, that's deep.
Yeah.
That's deep.
All right, so let's get into how it's going to affect the 12 signs.
And, okay, perfect.
You have something else?
I was going to ask, how do you feel about Pluto 12th house to Saturn?
Pluto 12th house to Saturn is knocking down all of those big pharmas that are trying to keep from of this energy healing, spiritual healing, medicinal stuff.
Are fully getting
stuff that it's gonna start to break that stuff down.
So yeah, Jupiter in Pisces is gonna be dope for Pisces for sure too.
Oh, for sure. Any major Pisces placement. I mean, Sun, Moon, rising. You're definitely gonna feel that expansion of Jupiter.
Beautiful.
So for Aries, we'll start with Aries. That's going to be your 12th house. So I see that as like lots of opportunity to travel, to go to foreign places, maybe connect to a new spiritual belief system.
I wish I knew I didn't know about astrology when Jupiter is going through my 12th. So that was a period where I was lost. Like I didn't know my beliefs were changing. So it'll feel like things are releasing and letting go. Let it go. Release everything. And you come into a whole new you. More
sleep, more rest, more meditation, more downtime, more supernatural experiences. Yeah. Dreams might be more vivid as well.
Yeah.
For Taurus, it's going to be your 11th house.
Yeah. Once again, the last time for me, I came into a new social circle of friends. So it's funny because now that it's coming back, I'm still cool with those people, but I'm connecting with like a whole new collective. So it's kind of like that served its purpose, and I'm still cool with, like, I've still built the relationship, but now it's like doubling on and evolving that. So hopes and wishes for sure, friendships for sure, and really connecting you with getting more noticed and
finding your tribe.
Right.
Finding your tribe. And it doesn't just have to be in one place. It can be people who are culturally diverse or from all over the world, meeting a lot of people online, things like that.
Quote unquote spiritual or like alternative.
Yeah.
We could say.
Yeah. And you're looking for it with Uranus on your ascendant. So
right.
For Gemini, this is kick ass for your career. It's really good because it's your 10th house. So definitely a lot more recognition.
Looking forward to that.
Being seen more, getting more fame, getting more opportunities, maybe even to travel for work or to be doing like more filming or more videos.
Breakthrough. And the thing with 10th house Pisces is the dream job. So it was hard with Neptune to really know, like, especially when I was in college, it's like, how am I going to like make this astrology stuff work out? Because people are saying you can't make a living doing tarot and astrology, but just believing in Neptune and just doing it anyway helped me be where I'm at. So
it's great. Yeah, it's really good for that. For Cancer, it's going to be your 9th house. Really great for
seeing into the unseen.
Exactly. Yeah, seeing into the unseen, traveling, going to places you've always wanted to go to. It's great for studying, traveling, teaching. It's great for publishing.
Ascending to the next level for sure.
And it's a sister sign for you, Cancer. Yeah. So keep in mind, there's going to be a lot of positive support between your planets that you have in Cancer, whether it's your sun, moon, rising, and this house. And it really opens up your philosophy and your beliefs.
And Leo, you want to be very careful about boundaries drawn. I've always been interested about 8th house Pisces because Pisces has no boundaries and the 8th house is about boundaries. So
it can also be about karmic sexual relationships, inheritance, having to deal with some magnification of joint resources, maybe higher tax bills, maybe self-employment, maybe your partner's making more money or you come into a benefactor situation.
Right.
Get that sugar daddy.
Great transformation.
For Leo. Yeah. And you'll have lots of sexual, spiritual experiences and your intimacy can definitely grow.
Yours isn't in Capricorn like some of mine, so that shit was dry for me. I mean, what for you? What's up?
For Virgo, this is really great because Pisces is your 7th house, so it's about relationships and expanding in committed relationships and marital relationships.
And divine partnerships. So all the people who were talking shit 2013 when Jupiter was in your sign calling you crazy, now you're just going to bring the receipts like, I told you so, I told you, I told you, I told you, so... Congratulations. But
also because you've still got some of those eclipses and nodal things happening in your 4th house, I could see that many Virgos are going to meet people who live in other places, or maybe they meet foreigners, or maybe they start working internationally and they meet somebody, or they might be more open to like a relocation.
Right.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Great for relationships. With Neptune there, that dream person might show up. And
marriages, divorces, business partnerships with Saturn. So
yeah,
that's predictably. We have Libra. You are going to be integrating divinity and incorporating your imagination to your lifestyle. And Libra rises with this, and Libras are really cool. It's like you could live your dream life, but less of career, more like how you incorporate the impossible into what you do.
It's been hard there for Libra and Libra rising because Neptune's there, so it definitely is more challenging. Yeah, it's been really challenging for staying on track and maybe being able to stay on task with your day-to-day routine. So I think a lot of Libras are going to see better health. They're going to enjoy what they're doing for work more. They may gain a new pet this year and may have a lot of really positive health or dietary changes.
And people are going to tell you that what you're doing is not realistic or normal, but you're not normal. So... you're not basic.
Giving to others and being of service also might kind of
divinely
work
too.
Into this.
And make sure you don't fall for people who play on pity so that you serve them more than they have to, because they'll try and get you. Scorpio with that 5th house though, that's gonna
better watch what you say.
I'm a little jealous actually. I got the 5th house. It's gonna be some fun if anything. Actually, I think there's going to be some more fun than you've ever had, even though it could be like a mutable catch to it. But like, I think it's going to be really rewarding. Lots of hearts.
Very romantic for Scorpios. It's very romantic. It's a time that if you've been looking for a real true love, that person can just show up in your life. It can be very dreamy and whimsical and creative. It's really great for creative projects, especially for like Scorpio suns and Scorpio risings. And I think, 5th house is like babies. So it's like there's going to be lots of babies for Scorpios next year, lots of pregnancies or more positive relations with younger people or with children.
Right. And talents, really evolving your talents and abilities. Oh, and when Jupiter goes to the 5th, your follower and subscriber count goes up opposite to the 11th. So really dope.
For Sagittarius, it's your 4th house. This is really magnifying and opening up your home life, your emotional life, your roots, where you live. You may relocate. You may move to a bigger home. You may move to a place that's closer to the sea or get a pool. And there may be a positive shift overall in your family.
Everyone I've ever known with this transit has moved, myself included, or innovated their home. So what I think I love about Sag is they do acknowledge when they go to sleep is when they go home. It's like the astral realm is where they're really from. So it also, Jupiter in the 4th also helped me understand my ancestry.
Oh yeah, it's a lot about roots and going home and understanding home. And a lot of you guys are going to integrate more spirituality and culture into your home and kind of make your home your temple. Right. And there can be just lots more fun expansions, weddings, parties, birthdays, having a good time with planets in the 4th house like that.
We have Capricorn. This third house is going to evolve your abilities. Some of you may be coming into tarot reading or evolving your tarot reading. Just as an example, any divine abilities, which in Pisces is a more metaphysical look into how the control and knowledge you manifest gives you this collective sense of like divine skill sets, which is at a God level and which is also like very imaginative. So I'll say, learning new abilities, learning new skills. It's the neighborhood energy. So you may meet some cool new neighbors.
Well, and some of you guys also just might get more interested in just getting more active within your community, and lots of like self-help podcasts and books, and maybe teaching yourself esoteric things.
Right.
I could also see maybe like more spending time on a boat or traveling by water or being on water in some way. It's great for learning, taking courses, especially and writing.
Right.
For Aquarius, it's your second house. It's all about that money.
I made my online store when Jupiter was in the second.
Yeah, it's great, especially if you're starting new things that you want to bring you long-term wealth and abundance. It's about investing in your values, your ideas, and your money, and how you're making money has to align with your spirit and what you believe in, and believing that you are worth it, and believing that you deserve the world.
And imagining your value out of thin air and being able to manifest through your imagination. Like $100 bill just comes.
Well, in luxury, right? I think of like luxury and the aspects to
Right.
Pluto, and that many of you guys may be making money overseas or making money in a private way, or maybe finishing an education or something that's going to really kind of bump up what your worth is and like what you can actually receive.
Before Pluto breaks you the fuck down.
Jupiter's also what you put in your mouth when it's in the second house. So definitely eating a little bit more, having a little bit more of like a hunger. Same thing goes for Pisces. This Jupiter will be on your ascendant, so be aware that you can gain weight, you can get pregnant, you can have more visibility. I think it's great for Pisces rising because it's a brand new cycle for you. It's like a brand new 12-year period. So
Cap, Aqua, and Pisces, I feel like the best first house.
yeah, they're gonna probably do some of the best.
Yeah, and all those people who are once again talking shit, just like Virgo, you're gonna be like, finally, you bitches are on my level. You thought I was crazy talking to these ghosts. Now you're starting to see them too.
Well, and your intuition will be stronger too if you're a Pisces or a Pisces rising. So be mindful with that Jupiter-Neptune connection. There's definitely going to be like a lot of people coming to you for advice, and you just having this internal sense of knowing.
Right. And just evolving the source of the psychic nature or just, intuitive nature you operate with. But that's Jupiter and Pisces in a nutshell.
Oh my goodness. I'm so excited.
We'll do part 2 when it goes back in for sure.
Yeah, we'll check in with you guys and see how you're doing. Let us know what you're excited for in terms of where Jupiter is transiting in your chart, what you're experiencing, maybe what you've had the last time around. And yeah, we'll definitely be back and chat about that a little bit more at the end of summer. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. This has been super awesome. I hope you enjoyed our Jupiter episode. And until next time, we'll be back very soon.
Peace.
Take care.